Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Ever feel like you're giving it your all, juggling everything, and yet you're just wrung out, utterly exhausted, maybe even a little cynical, like you're just going through the motions,
Oh, absolutely.
It's like you're stuck in a hamster wheel, putting in all this effort, but not really getting anywhere.
It's a sentiment we hear a lot, actually.
I was actually talking to Amelia the other day, and she was telling me about a friend, Julie, who's a middle school teacher.
Okay.
And with the new school year about to start, Amelia asked how she was feeling. And Julie's response, she said it half jokingly, was, I've decided to start selling drugs so I can quit my job. It really hit me, That kind of exhaustion, that level of burnout where even drastic measures start to seem kind of appealing. It's more common than we'd like to think, isn't it?
It is. It's disturbingly common. And as Julie's experience highlights, it's not just, everyday tiredness or needing a vacation. It's something much deeper. That deep well of emotional exhaustion, often coupled with a sense of detachment and ineffectiveness, it signals a deeper process at play.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're diving deep into today, specifically for you, our listeners. You shared some incredibly insightful material with us, and we're going to really unpack one of the key sources. Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski Peterson.
Great book.
It is. And what's so fascinating right from the start is that this isn't just another self-help book on, managing stress. As the authors themselves discovered, it evolved into something much bigger, something more fundamental.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's a book about connection, really, about how we as humans aren't designed to face these overwhelming challenges in isolation.
Yeah.
We're wired to support each other, to lean on each other. And that's a crucial piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding and addressing burnout.
It is. It's a critical reframing because so often the conversation around burnout puts the onus entirely on the individual. Like, what are you doing wrong? How can you become more resilient? But this book, it bravely steps back to look at the bigger picture, acknowledging the systemic pressures, the societal factors, and that core human need for connection. All of these are vital elements in navigating stress.
Exactly. So today's mission is to extract those core insights from burnout to help you understand not only the physiological stress cycle, what's actually happening in your body when you feel overwhelmed, but also how those societal expectations, those external pressures, feed into that feeling of being utterly drained.
Yeah.
And most importantly, we want to leave you with concrete, actionable strategies for finding genuine relief and reclaiming your well-being.
Love it.
Our aim isn't to overload you with information, but to leave you feeling truly informed and, most importantly, empowered. So let's unpack this. Let's start right at the beginning with the stress cycle itself. When we talk about stress, what's actually happening in our bodies? What's the physiological response?
Okay, so imagine this, right? The physiological stress response is, at its core, a survival mechanism.
Okay.
Deeply ingrained, designed to prepare you for immediate danger. Think back to our ancient ancestors encountering a lion.
Okay, yeah.
What happens? Your body instantly floods with adrenaline, that jolt of energy you feel.
Yeah.
And cortisol, a stress hormone that keeps you on high alert. This leads to a cascade of physical changes.
Like what?
Your heart rate accelerates, your muscles tense up, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, your senses are heightened. Blood flow is redirected away from non-essential functions like digestion and towards your major muscle groups. And your body starts releasing stored energy to fuel quick action, fight or flight. So even though your lion today might be a looming deadline or a difficult conversation, your body reacts with the same primal intensity.
Right. So our bodies haven't quite caught up to the modern world.
Exactly. Recognizing that mismatch is the first step.
Okay, so our bodies are basically going into this full-on alarm mode, ready to fight or flee. But the book makes this really crucial point. Just removing the lion, or the modern-day equivalent of the stressor, isn't enough to bring that alarm system back down.
Right.
We actually need to complete the stress cycle. Why is that so critical?
Well, your body needs a clear signal that the danger has passed, that it's safe to return to a state of calm. All those mobilized resources, the elevated heart rate, the tense muscles, the surge of hormones that need to be utilized or processed somehow.
Okay.
If the cycle isn't completed, those physiological responses can remain activated, simmering, and accumulating over time. It's like constantly hitting snooze on your alarm clock.
Well, I do that all the time.
We all do. But it doesn't actually resolve the need for rest. It just prolongs the grogginess and can even leave you feeling more depleted.
Right. So it's not just about the mental feeling of stress fading away. It's this physical process in the body that needs a resolution.
Absolutely.
Now, the book also introduces another really important concept: freeze.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is and how it fits into this whole stress cycle picture?
Absolutely. So we always hear about fight or flight, right?
Right.
But freeze is another critical survival mechanism. It kicks in when neither fighting nor fleeing seems possible or safe.
Okay.
So in these situations, your brain might trigger a freeze response. You might feel paralyzed, numb, or even disconnected from your body.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that before.
It can involve a sudden drop in heart rate and blood pressure, a sense of dissociation and muscle tension. It's like a state of suspended animation.
So it's like your body's way of just shutting down to protect itself.
Exactly. It's conserving energy, potentially avoiding detection, or navigating an overwhelming threat.
So that feeling of being stuck, unable to act when you're super overwhelmed, that's actually a primal survival mechanism.
It is. Recognizing that can be a powerful first step in moving through it.
That's really helpful to know. Okay, so whether our initial response is to fight, flee, or freeze, our bodies are going through this intense physiological event. And the crucial part is completing that cycle.
Absolutely.
And the book offers a whole range of ways we can actively complete this cycle. It's not just about thinking our way out of stress, it's about doing something.
Exactly.
So let's dive into some of those methods, starting with physical activity. It seems obvious, but can you elaborate on why it's so effective in telling our bodies that the lion is gone?
Sure. Physical activity is a really effective way to signal to your body that the threat has passed.
Okay.
It allows you to use up those physical resources that were mobilized during the stress response. The adrenaline, the increased heart rate, the tense muscles.
So it's like actually physically doing the fight or flight that our body was prepared for.
Exactly. Even if the original stressor wasn't physical, the physiological response is. And movement helps to discharge that pent-up energy.
Makes sense. It's like the body finally getting to do what it was ready to do.
Yeah.
Now, another method the book highlights is affection.
Yes.
Positive social interaction. This goes way beyond just venting to a friend, right?
No, absolutely. Positive social interaction, even small gestures, sends a powerful signal to your brain that the world is a safe place. Casual, friendly chats, a genuine compliment, these things reassure your nervous system.
Yeah.
But the book really emphasizes deeper affection. They talk about the benefits of a 20-second hug with someone you trust.
20 seconds. Wow, that's a long hug.
It is. And the research suggests this can lead to hormonal shifts, lower blood pressure, improve your mood, and trigger the release of oxytocin.
The cuddle hormone, right?
Exactly. The social bonding hormone. It's a physiological antidote to the stress response.
Wow, so that sustained physical contact really has a measurable impact, almost like recalibrating our nervous system.
It's like telling it, okay, you're safe now.
And it's not just human connection, right? They talk about the soothing effect of animals, too.
Yep. That's right. Studies have shown that even just petting a cat for a few minutes can lower blood pressure. The bond we have with pets can be incredibly supportive, especially for people who have had difficult experiences with human relationships.
Right.
And think about dog walkers. They get a double dose of stress relief, physical activity, and affection from their furry companions.
So many paths to stress cycle completion. Okay, so we've got physical activity, we've got affection. What about laughter? I mean, it seems pretty intuitive that it would help, but how does it specifically fit into this whole physiological picture?
Well, laughter is incredibly potent. It releases tension and signals safety.
Okay.
It reduces stress hormones like cortisol and releases endorphins, those natural mood boosters. It's also a social signal that things are okay within a group, reinforcing that sense of safety.
Right, right. And then they bring up creative expression, which really resonated with me because it's not necessarily the first thing you think of when you're trying to manage stress.
Yeah, it's interesting. The book shares an anecdote about a Nashville songwriter who, looking back at their work, realized that their songs were a way of processing past trauma, and they weren't even consciously aware of the depth of the pain at the time. Creative expression writing, painting, music, gardening, anything that lets you externalize your inner experience can be a really cathartic outlet for processing emotions and completing those lingering stress cycles.
So you're essentially channeling those difficult feelings into something productive and potentially even beautiful.
Exactly. Think about Sophie, the engineer we talked about before. She initially hated exercise, but she found a way to channel her frustrations into a successful business, giving talks and workshops, a creative outlet that addressed her stress and helped others too.
And then finally, a technique that's incredibly practical and accessible to everyone. Breathing.
Yes, breathing is so powerful. Deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing, especially with a long exhale, activates your parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest system.
Exactly. It downregulates the stress response. The book outlines this 5-5-10-5 breathing exercise. Inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 10, pause for 5.
Simple but effective.
It's a simple but remarkably effective tool to quickly dial down that acute stress response. And it can be a particularly gentle starting point for people who've experienced trauma.
Okay, so a key takeaway here is that completing the stress cycle isn't about intellectualizing it away. It requires action.
Right.
Physical or emotional engagement, actually doing something.
Exactly. Like Emily herself found release through running and biking. It can lead to a profound physiological shift.
Now, how do we know if we are stuck in this stress cycle? What are some telltale signs?
There are several. One is that feeling of being always on, constantly hypervigilant. Your body never really relaxes.
Yeah.
Another is what Brené Brown calls chandeliering. Sudden, disproportionate emotional outbursts.
Like you just explode over something small.
Exactly. It's like all the unexpressed stress erupts.
That's a great analogy.
Another sign is what the book calls turning into a bunny hiding under a hedge.
Oh, I like that one.
It's that tendency to withdraw from life, to engage in avoidance behaviors. Endless scrolling, binge watching, staying in bed all weekend.
Just trying to escape, basically.
Exactly. And finally, your body itself might start to feel off. Chronic aches and pains, recurring illnesses, slow healing injuries. Amelia's experience in grad school, she ended up hospitalized twice. First with severe abdominal pain, and then a burst appendix. It really shows how chronic stress can manifest physically.
That's pretty sobering. It's not just about feeling a bit frazzled. It can have real consequences.
It can. But the encouraging news is that learning to complete the stress cycle is possible for everyone. Amelia's journey after those hospitalizations, she incorporated relaxation and exercise, really shows that we can learn these skills.
So even when you're feeling completely overwhelmed, there's still hope.
Absolutely. The first step is recognizing the need. Once you understand what's happening, you can start incorporating those cycle-completing activities. It might take time to find what works best for you, but it's an achievable path.
That's good to hear. Okay, so now we have a clear understanding of the stress cycle and ways to complete it. But a lot of our stress also comes from external factors, work, relationships, societal pressures.
Right.
Part 2 of the book delves into navigating these external stressors and expectations. They introduce the concept of the monitor. What is that?
So the monitor is your brain's internal tracking system. It's constantly evaluating how much effort you're putting into things and the progress you're making.
Okay.
And when there's a disconnect, a lot of effort but little progress, that's when frustration sets in.
Okay, interesting. So knowing this monitor is at work, how can we deal with stressors that we do have some control over?
The book highlights planful problem solving. It's a proactive approach. You identify the problem, brainstorm solutions, and take steps to implement them.
So it's about taking charge rather than feeling helpless.
Exactly. Like being stuck in traffic, you use your GPS to find an alternative route.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
But what about stressors that are completely out of our control? The traffic jam with no detour, for example.
For those, the book introduces cognitive strategies like positive reappraisal and shifting our expectations.
Okay, what's positive reappraisal?
It's about intentionally finding value or opportunity for growth within a difficult situation. Not denying the difficulty, but looking for potential silver linings.
So it's like finding the good in the bad.
In a way, yes. The authors talk about natural optimists who do this automatically and pessimists who may need to work at it.
I think I'm more of a pessimist. How do you actually do this positive reappraisal thing without it feeling fake?
It's not about forcing a positive emotion. It's about acknowledging the difficulty and then gently exploring if there might also be opportunities within it.
Okay.
There's actually some research to support this. Studies showing that students retain information better when it's in harder to read fonts.
Really?
Yeah, or that some background noise can boost creativity. Diverse teams, while they might experience more friction, generate more innovative solutions. Even exercise, as challenging as it is, leads to stronger bones. And engaging in reappraisal activates the prefrontal cortex, which helps to dampen the stress response.
So our brains are actually wired to find the good in the struggle.
In a way, yes. But the important thing is to avoid comparing yourself to others. That just increases stress.
Right. And you also mentioned shifting our expectations. What does that involve?
This addresses the frustration that can arise even when you're making progress, but it's not happening as fast as you expect.
Right.
So redefining winning means adjusting those expectations,
Yeah,
like climbing Mount Everest. If you expect it to be easy, you'll be quickly demoralized.
So it's about setting realistic expectations, not just for the outcome, but for the difficulty and the timeline.
Exactly. The book suggests breaking down big goals into smaller, more manageable, incremental goals. They call them soon, certain, positive, concrete, specific, and personal.
That's a lot of adjectives.
It is, but it makes sense. These smaller goals become achievements in themselves, providing regular feedback to your monitor and sustaining your motivation.
It's like rewarding yourself along the way, not just at the end.
Exactly. And then there's the concept of redefining failing, which sounds a little counterintuitive.
How can changing our relationship with failure reduce stress?
Well, for those big, uncertain goals, establishing what the book calls a non-standard relationship with failing can help. It's about recognizing that sometimes you might not hit the bullseye, but you discover something equally valuable along the way.
So it's about embracing the detours.
Exactly. There's a great quote in the book. I rarely end up where I was intending to go, but often I end up somewhere I needed to be.
I like that. It's about trusting the journey.
Yes. And Julie's story about realizing how much stress her marriage was causing and deciding to quit everything except the occasional chocolate cake is a good example.
It's about giving yourself permission to step away from something that's doing more harm than good. But how do we know when it's actually the right time to quit something?
The book uses the explore-exploit problem from nature as a framework. When an animal is searching for food in a certain area, at some point it needs to move on to a new, potentially better area.
Okay.
Applying this to our lives involves writing down 4 lists. Benefits of continuing, costs of continuing, benefits of stopping, costs of stopping. And it's important to consider both short-term and long-term implications.
So it's a more rational way of making a decision rather than just reacting emotionally?
Exactly. And of course, the book also acknowledges the power of persistence. Nevertheless, she persisted.
Right. That's a powerful phrase.
It resonated with so many people because persistence in the face of adversity is often admirable. But it's crucial to balance that with the wisdom to recognize when persisting is no longer serving you.
Yeah, knowing when to hold them and when to fold them.
Exactly. The key takeaway is to listen to your internal signals about when it's time to let go and to redefine winning by setting those smaller, achievable milestones.
Okay, so we've explored the stress cycle and strategies for managing external stressors. Now, part 3 delves into a really deep question. What truly matters?
Right.
It introduces the concept of meaning and/or something larger.
Yeah.
Why is connecting with this sense of meaning so important in the context of burnout?
Meaning is that feeling of being connected to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
It's that sense of purpose that helps us not only thrive, but also cope with challenges. It's an antidote to the cynicism and helplessness of burnout.
So it's like having a guiding light in the darkness.
Exactly. And the book makes a point that meaning isn't something we just find, it's something we create.
Okay, so it's not just out there waiting for us. We have to actively cultivate it.
Right. Some people might have a sudden revelation, but for most of us, meaning is more of a guiding force. It's not the destination, it's the compass.
I like that.
Some common sources of meaning are pursuing meaningful goals, dedicating yourself to a spiritual purpose, and nurturing loving relationships.
And there's no right or wrong source.
Exactly. What matters is that it gives you that sense of positive impact and connection.
So it's really personal.
It is, and they share their own examples, don't they?
They do, yeah. Amelia finds meaning in art, specifically choral conducting, bringing people together through music. And Emily's is teaching women to live with confidence and joy.
It's about finding that specific thing where you feel like you're making a positive difference.
And this leads into the concept of human giver syndrome, which seems to be central to why so many people, especially women, experience burnout. What is that?
Human giver syndrome describes this societal system where one group of people, disproportionately women, are expected to constantly give to others.
Their time, their attention, their emotional labor, even their physical self. And the expectation is that they do this willingly and placidly, often without expecting anything in return.
So it's like they're expected to be selfless caretakers.
Exactly. And this creates this pressure where their primary purpose becomes nurturing others, often at the expense of their own needs and aspirations.
And how does this make it harder for them to find their own meaning?
Well, when you're constantly giving to others, there's very little space left to explore what truly gives you purpose.
Right.
And then there's the social pressure to be the perfect giver, always pretty, happy, calm, generous, attentive. It overshadows your own callings.
It's like you're not allowed to have your own needs.
And if you do try to prioritize yourself or set boundaries, you might face backlash. The subtle message of, what's wrong with her? Get back in line.
It's a powerful and insidious system.
It is. Even the traditional heroine's journey often portrays women as the destination, not the hero on their own journey. It reinforces that limited role. But the book also talks about how to make meaning, even when terrible things happen, when that sense of purpose can feel shattered.
Yes. In times of crisis, loss, or trauma, you might find yourself in what the book calls an existential vacuum. And it becomes essential to turn inward with kindness and self-compassion.
Okay.
It's like holding on to the safety handles during turbulence on a plane. It helps you navigate those rough times.
So self-compassion becomes the anchor.
Exactly. And the book even points out how Disney princess stories often include a moment where the heroine has to turn inward to find strength.
Interesting.
And recovering from adversity can actually lead to a deeper sense of meaning. You go from simply surviving to thriving.
So it's about finding the meaning in the struggle, in the overcoming.
Exactly. And this leads into the idea of the origin story.
What's that?
It's about rewriting the narrative of your difficult experiences, shifting the focus from the pain to the lessons learned and the strengths you discovered. It's about identifying the skills and resilience you had to draw upon to survive. The meaning comes not just from the event, but from how you survived it.
So it's about reframing the story not as a victim, but as a survivor.
Exactly. It can be painful, but it helps you see how those experiences shaped you and might even illuminate a path towards your something larger.
So it's like turning your wounds into wisdom.
Yes. And they conclude with this powerful statement, your something larger is within you.
Like in Moana, right?
Yes, it's that realization that the call to meaning isn't always external. It often comes from within. You are the chosen one because something valuable within you is calling you forward.
I love that. It's so empowering.
It is. Julie's reflection on what matters most to her daughter is a great example of that internal connection to meaning.
So we're already equipped with the resources to face adversity and find meaning.
Exactly. Your stress response, your monitor, your something larger, they're all there to help you navigate life.
Okay, so now we've explored our internal landscape. But the book also turns its attention to the external enemies that contribute to burnout.
Right.
Part 4 examines the impact of systemic issues.
Yeah.
What are some of the key enemies they identify?
The book shifts focus from individual coping to the larger forces at play. And they directly address the concept of patriarchy.
Okay.
They acknowledge that the word itself can be uncomfortable, but they stress that the impact of gendered expectations on stress is undeniable.
So it's not about the label, it's about the real effects.
Exactly. They explain how these gendered expectations are instilled from a young age, shaping how we're treated and what's expected of us.
What's the societal script we're all given?
And they talk about these chronic stressors as being like traffic noise. It's constant and pervasive, we get used to it, but it's still there, contributing to stress.
Okay, yeah. Like what?
Things like body image ideals, fueled by what they call the bikini industrial complex industries that profit from setting unrealistic beauty standards. And the pressure on women to be pretty, happy, calm, generous, attentive, all at the same time.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It is. These seemingly small stressors add up over time. And while men face pressures too, the impact on women is often disproportionate.
So it's like an extra layer of stress that's always there.
And one of the more insidious tactics is gaslighting.
What's that in this context?
It's when the patriarchy makes you doubt your own perceptions and experiences. It's the message that if something's wrong, it's you who's broken, not the system.
So it's like being told your reality isn't real.
Exactly. It makes you feel trapped and erodes your trust in yourself.
That's really damaging.
And then there's this concept of patriarchy blindness, #2, headwinds, tailwinds, asymmetry.
Okay, break that down for me.
It uses cycling as an analogy. What feels like a flat road with a tailwind for someone can feel like an uphill battle for someone facing a headwind.
Right.
And because those in the dominant group aren't experiencing the headwind, they often don't see it.
So they misinterpret the struggles of others as personal failings.
Exactly. Like the example of male doctors not formally introducing their female colleague. It subtly undermines the women's credibility, but the men might not even realize it.
It's about recognizing that our experience isn't universal and that there might be systemic barriers that others face.
And they also talk about compassion fatigue.
What's that?
It's when human givers, often women, ignore their own stress while caring for others. They're so focused on others' needs that they neglect their own, leading to burnout.
Right. It's like they're running on empty.
Exactly. So understanding these systemic issues is crucial, but what can we actually do about them? It feels so big and overwhelming.
Yeah. What are the practical steps?
The first step is to complete the cycle. Feels about the patriarchy.
Right.
Recognizing the unfairness of the system can be infuriating. Don't ignore those feelings.
Right.
They're valid. And the book reminds us that learned helplessness can be unlearned by doing something physical or creative.
So channeling those feelings into action.
Exactly. Like Carrie Fisher's quote, "Take your broken heart, make it into art."
And they also revisit the bikini industrial complex.
They remind us of its role in perpetuating harmful body ideals and the stress that comes with them.
So it's about being aware of these larger forces at play.
Absolutely.
Wow, this has been a really insightful deep dive. Let's recap some key lessons.
Okay.
What are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
So, first, remember the stress cycle is physiological and needs completion. Physical activity, affection, laughter, creativity, breathing, these all help.
Okay.
Second, understand your monitor and how it tracks your progress. Use planful problem solving for controllable stressors and positive reappraisal for those you can't control.
Right.
Third, connect with your something larger, your source of meaning and purpose.
Okay.
And finally, acknowledge the impact of systemic issues like patriarchy and the human giver syndrome.
They're not our fault, but they do affect us.
Exactly.
And the book offers practical steps we can take, right?
Yes. First, become aware of your stress signals and practice cycle completing activities daily.
Okay.
Second, apply planful problem solving or positive reappraisal to a current frustration.
Right.
Third, dedicate time to your something larger each day.
Okay.
Fourth, notice instances of gendered expectations or headwinds in your life.
Okay.
Fifth, prioritize rest, sleep, quiet time, enjoyable activities.
Okay.
Sixth, cultivate self-compassion. Speak to yourself with kindness.
Okay.
And finally, nurture your connections. Reach out to someone you trust.
So many great takeaways. It's about working with our bodies and minds, not against them.
Exactly. And recognizing that self-care isn't selfish, it's essential.
So for our final thought, consider this. View your well-being as an act of resistance against those systemic pressures.
Interesting.
Prioritizing rest and self-compassion is a way of taking back your power. It's a way of showing up more fully in your life for yourself and those you care about.
I love that.
Even small acts of self-care can lead to big shifts. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.